Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist. First and weather here. It is April 30th, 2021, and welcome to another weather video. It's been a very long time. The last time I uploaded a video was, I think, around February 17th, so it's been a very long time. Glad to be back. Definitely got a little bit distracted with school and all those things. Still have that going on, but thought it would be a great time to make a YouTube video. Definitely something that I really enjoy, and I hope it also helps you guys out when you're planning and looking at what the weather is going to be like. So without further ado, let's get started. This is the surface observations map for 0Z. You can see we have really had a windy day. Winds have been gusting very steadily from the south, from the northwest and north. And these winds have been gusting up to 40 miles per hour. In fact, we had 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Dulles Airport, about 100 miles north in D.C. So definitely some impressive stuff. And this is all due to a very potent trough that's come through that's really helped to deliver some very nice dry air. Look at those dew points west of the Appalachians. 29 in Ohio, 27 in West Virginia. And we also do have some dry air in Virginia, too. 42 at the airport in Richmond. That's pretty impressive for late April. Even 30s as you go northwest, excuse me, in places like Winchester, in the Appalachian regions, in west of Charlottesville, and even up along the coast to 36, just a few miles west of Norfolk, or Norfolk as they say it. Very impressive stuff. Although these winds have been pretty gusty, there have been some damages, some trash cans blown over, stuff like that. But for the most part, nothing too bad. Today was an amazing day, highs in the mid 70s, low humidity, great day to enjoy the outdoors. Now let's transition to the short term. This is the NAM 3 kilometer precip forecast, and you can see things are relatively quiet. One feature I do want to point out is it's sort of almost gust front of showers that came through, bringing in some really gusty winds. And as you can see behind that, you have a real nice cold pool of air aloft, and that's really what's causing these strong winds. You have a strong pressure gradient force, so you have these really strong winds coming in. But that should start to ease later tonight into tomorrow morning. And as you see after that, things are pretty quiet. Not really much going on in the mid-Atlantic and central portions of Virginia. Things are remaining relatively dry, as they have been. And you can see that the only real main storm systems are out in Texas, big upper level low, and then you have another storm system in the Midwest. So as of now, things up until about May 3rd, May 4th are looking relatively calm. But it does look like that will change once we get past May 3rd. So here is the GFS 250 millibar wind chart. This is a good way to really sort of get an understanding of what's going on in the upper atmosphere and what the polar jet and the subtropical jet, how they're behaving and what's really going on. So this is for April 30th. You can see we have that really strong area of divergence aloft right over central Virginia. And that's, again, really sort of driving and indicating an unseasonably cold pool of air aloft coming through, but that again is going to be exiting relatively soon. And then after that, we have a nice little retreat of the polar jet way far north. And so that means Tuesday is going to be quite warm. It might actually be our first 90-degree day of the year. Many areas will see highs in the lower 90s, if not the upper 80s. So definitely a very warm day. Things are looking quite nice. Now after that, you can see things do get a little bit more interesting. You have a nice little jet streak forming right here in the Midwest and portions like Ohio, Indiana. It's going to be interesting to see how just far east this goes, because as of now, it looks like the biggest area of concern is going to be somewhere right here, anywhere basically north and east of that jet streak. And that jet streak never really materializes to the east. So it looks like, as of now, the greatest severe weather threat is going to be somewhere in this region right here as that energy moves to the northeast. But as we go through time, another sort of batch of energy comes through. May 5th, a nice little cold front indicated by the GFS coming through central Virginia. And that might indicate and support the development of a few thunderstorms. Nothing really too impressive right now on the upper air forecast. But nonetheless, things could change. You have a pretty potent air mass behind it for this time of year. Of course, you can see nice little jet streak aloft, nice southerly winds coming in, and divergence going on. So that would also help to initiate some storms over the area. But really, when you look at this sort of upper air chart, there's nothing that really screams severe weather risk as of this moment. Then after that, as you go through time, you can see that the model also wants to bring in a pretty nice trough around the May 7th time frame. I'm not so sure about this. This is, again, pretty a ways off, but it's something to monitor, just to keep your eye on. This would be a nice little return of spring after those warm conditions on Tuesday, but we'll just have to wait and see what really happens with what the GFS is saying. Switching now to the Ensemble, this can give us a little bit of a better idea, sort of takes away the extreme solutions that the GFS so often likes to portray, and gives you a better, more well-rounded solution as to what might be happening with our weather for the next 1 to 2 weeks. This is for May 5th. As you can see, it also is picking up on that piece of energy moving through the Mississippi River area and also going through the Midwest and Ohio Valley region. And then it also shows a nice little cold front coming through over central Virginia around May 5th to May 6th. Then after that, around May 7th, May 8th, the GFS Ensemble also wants to portray a nice little trough coming through, which is quite unseasonable for this time of year. Maybe perhaps a last gasp of spring before we really transition to sort of a hot, humid air mass pattern as warm southerly winds stream off from the Gulf of Mexico, but definitely interesting to see. And after that, things sort of just average out as the spread in the solutions become a little bit bigger. But one thing I do want to point out is you can see this pattern right here indicated by the model. That does seem a little bit interesting. You have a nice little trough right over the west, and you have this nice expansive ridging over the Midwestern regions. And this would support some sort of severe weather in this region right here. And this is pretty interesting. This would be a good look for a pretty active May, or especially around this time period. So this is something that needs to be watched, especially since it's showing up at forecast hour 264 on the Ensemble. So that is something to monitor, and I'll have more on that in future videos, and also on my Twitter now, which is First in Weather. You can just search up First in Weather, and you'll find my account. Now let's take a look at the GEFS Ensemble temperature anomaly forecast. Just take a look at what the model is showing for the next few days. You can see that for April 30th, it has some pretty nice warm temperatures retreating to the east as that cold air comes in. That's all that cold air aloft and even coming down to the surface. But you can see just as quickly as it arrived, it departs. And after that, Tuesday is where we can really see our first true 90-degree day. You can see it's showing some very nice above average temperature anomalies with cold air back to the west. And it also wants to show that cold air then coming in for around the May 7th to 8th time frame, which again also supports a nice strong cold front coming through, which might increase our chances for seeing some, pretty good storms that also accompany it. And then after that, it wants to keep things a bit chilly, but then a moderating pattern ensues, although this is probably just the model averaging out with all the solutions. Now let's take a quick look at the analog tool. This is a great tool, the CIPS experimental analog based severe probability guidance. It's a really sort of unique way to see what threats are out there. It takes a look at all the analogs from the GFS and NAM and paints a picture of what areas to possibly watch. Now this is for day 6, forecast hour 144. It's based on the GEFS Ensemble. And you can see it's painting a pretty good picture for some severe weather in central Virginia and North Carolina around the May 5th or 6th time frame. And this is something that I think we need to watch. As you saw with the GFS and the GEFS Ensemble, it was both were pointing to a potentially potent cold front coming through the area around that time frame. So again, something to watch. It has a 45% probability of seeing some severe weather in this region right here. So that, of course, will be I'll have more updates on later. Now let's take a look at some of the forcing patterns. What's really causing the weather we're seeing right now? You can see the MGO is very high in amplitude. It's way out from that circle of death. Pretty strong amplitude of phase 8 right now, projected to go into phase 1. And usually in the wintertime, this would mean some pretty cold conditions, stormy and cold in the east. But what about in the spring, especially when we're seeing sort of neutral to weak La Nina conditions? This is what you usually see. This is MJO phase 1 in April. You can see we have a nice troughing in the mid-Atlantic and in the Midwest. So this would indicate stormier conditions, wetter along the fringes of this, and also pretty seasonable, nice spring-like conditions. Of course, in winter this will be cold, but right now, when we're approaching sort of that hot, humid air mass time of year, this would mean dry, comfortable, and very spring-like air. And it's even showing highlighted to blocking, for crying out loud, in April. So again, where was this pattern in winter? I don't know. That's a great question. If only we could switch it, but the weather doesn't want to cooperate sometimes. So yeah, this phase 8, phase 1 sort of configuration really does support cooler than average conditions over May, over the eastern U.S. for the next couple of weeks. And at the most, it also supports, or at the least, supports these cool intermittent shots of cold air coming in, relatively speaking, of course, as we saw today with that nice little trough swinging through. But those cold shots should be relatively short-lived. And here is phase 1. This is for neutral ENSO conditions. This was for April. Let me check. Oh, this is for May. All right. So for May, that signature definitely does weaken a bit, as you see that polar jet really retreating to the north and a warm, hot, humid air mass taking over. But nonetheless, you still have an area of below average heights right off the northeast, and so that is something to keep in mind. And finally, before I wrap up this video, let's take a quick look at ENSO. This is the April 2021 forecast. You can see that we're currently in neutral conditions at around negative 0.3. Most of the models do project this going a little bit higher north or a little bit warmer, reaching right around neutral conditions, and then a bit of a dip as we head into the fall. Of course, as of this time of year, it's very hard to predict what the conditions west of South America are going to be like, but there's a good bet that we are going to stay in neutral conditions for the next month or two. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Main takeaways are that it's going to be relatively dry for the next 2 or 3 days. Potential storminess around the May 5th or 6th time frame, and also a good bet for some cooler spring-like conditions after the May 6th time frame, particularly around May 7th to May 10th. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.